Hey friends, welcome back to Parenting Uncovered. We've got a super practical conversation for you today. Hopefully all these episodes have been super practical.
Yeah,
that's what we're going for.
So.
We want to help you guys out to just think new thoughts and have new resources at your disposal because we're all in this parenting journey together. And we're going to talk today about childcare, finding a reliable babysitter. Now, we, in our marriage, for the 22 years of our marriage, the 18 plus years of our parenting, almost that entire time, we've lived away from family and have had to find childcare on our own. And sometimes it's been hard, but we've been very intentional about it. And frankly, it's been a little bit of a pet peeve of mine.
Oh, you guys, be ready.
When people act helpless to find a babysitter, when they're like,
step on some toes,
we can't go anywhere because my mom is the only one who watches our kids and she's not available. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing.
Honey, you're going to step on some toes.
Let me step. Okay, let me step on them because, guys,
stomp on them.
It's not that hard. It's just not that hard. Now, I get there are certain situations, but listen, we have been broke. We have been like far away from anybody we knew. We've been in new communities and like we've always found babysitters, and I promise you can do it too. I know you're a smart person. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but I think for some reason I see really intelligent people just shut their brain off when it comes time to find a babysitter.
Yes.
And I don't get it. And so this episode is to help all of us, to help you tap into the brilliance I know you have.
I want to say, I want to bandage up your toes a little bit, those of you who we stepped on your toes, okay? Because I want to say, listen, having been a parent for 18 years now and many friends who are parents, I think where this lack of wanting to find a babysitter or feeling like you can't find a babysitter comes from is a fear. I think a lot of it is people
I get that.
who are scared of what might happen. And I get that, you guys. Like, I mean, it's easy for us. We've had 4 kids. We have the perspective of raising kids behind us. It's so easy for us to be like, get a babysitter. It's not hard. Like, I totally get that. And so, listen, we're going to level with you. I get the fear. Like, I was there in the beginning. I remember with our first child, it was, I felt completely like a fish out of water. Like, what do I do with this? I've read the books. I've been prayed up. But what in the world? And I don't want to leave because I'm so scared of something going wrong and that sort of thing. And I remember 2 weeks after we had Cooper, our firstborn, Dave's mom showed up at our front door. So sweet. I think she even had food because she always brings food or snacks or something.
Mom, we love you.
And I know she's amazing. And she said, hey, I'm here because I wanted to see if you guys want to go on like a quick date, like an hour date. I know you're a nursing mother, but this is something that I think is so important for your marriage. And I know you guys could use the time together. And so I'm here. Mimi's here, And I was so excited because I did want that time with you. But I also, I was so fearful, not because she's not amazing. I mean, your mom has always helped me with each of our kids. I mean, my mom too, like both mothers stayed for a time after all of our kids were born just to help me through that period. And I mean, what a blessing, you know?
Right.
And your dad, just the best dad ever. You were so hands-on and I love that.
But we haven't had family childcare except for
that's in the beginning.
In recent years,
yeah.
My mom and dad too, but mom mostly has stepped up for some of these overnight trips. Like right now we're recording in Texas. Yeah. My parents are watching our boys in Georgia, which is such a gift. But that hasn't always been the case. For most of our married life, we didn't have access to parents as childcare.
No.
And so we had to find other resources. We had to get creative, even with overnight, because we have to travel for our work.
Right.
And so we had to do the extra layer of finding reliable overnight childcare.
Which we can talk about that in a minute, because that's a whole other ballgame.
That's a different level.
But I want to say, like, that first time that we had a babysitter who was Karen, also Mimi, so she's the grandparent, which of course I trust her completely. But I remember going on that date, feeling so excited, but we went to Applebee's. And I remember being so excited to be with you, but I sat down and I started like bawling. Do you remember this? And I was my feelings were all over the place. I felt excited to be with you. And I kept on saying, I'm so sorry. I don't know what is going on with me. Like I just don't, it's like I want to be with just you and have this time, but I also feel guilty leaving him. And I feel all out of sorts, And I think a lot of parents, even if you're not, it's not a 2-week-old, but like, even when your kids are at the age where they can't really talk well and tell you what happened during the babysitting time, I feel like that's why a lot of people stay away from getting a babysitter. And then they get old enough to talk, but you've gotten in the habit of never getting a babysitter, that you just tell yourself you don't need one, that you guys don't need a date. Like we've met with couples where they're like, well, we just don't need that.
Yeah, some people need it. We don't.
Yeah,
we don't.
We just don't need it.
We're good.
And I mean,
or they're it's kind of this martyr mentality.
There's a lot of that.
Of like, I'm just, you know, I just do everything for my kids, and no one else is ever going to love them like me. And so, of course, they're not going to love them like you.
They won't.
That's not a babysitter's job. Your babysitter's job is to keep them alive for a few hours so you can go invest in your marriage.
Feed them, keep them alive,
don't harm
put
them
to bed.
Yeah.
If you find a babysitter who can feed them, play with them, keep them alive, and put them to bed. The putting to bed is important, especially in those young years.
Yeah.
That is a babysitter you want to keep, because coming home after a date night to peacefully sleeping kids is such a gift, in a house that is not a mess, okay? But I want to tell you, like, so we had that interaction where we go on that first date. I remember feeling a little defeated because I'm like, man, am I going to feel this way the whole time? And then, we end up moving to another state and don't have any family around us. And I remember you were so wise and you said, listen, one of the first things we need to do is find a babysitter.
Top of the priority.
When we moved, we had a 2-year-old and I was 8 months pregnant, okay? And so he knew, and we have another baby coming. We need that time. We need to have a regular date night, so we need to find a babysitter. And we, at the time, had a neighborhood newspaper, and I think it was online and in paper form. And so, because we literally knew no one. Dave was a pastor, so we knew we could ask like the nursery workers and the childcare workers there at church. But we kind of started with our like neighborhood newspaper, which today would be like Nextdoor, the Nextdoor app. Like you can go on the Nextdoor app, look up babysitters in your area, and basically call up the babysitter, have an interview with her or
have
him.
them over.
Like have them come over, meet them at Starbucks or whatever. I often meet them at coffee shops, and like really talk to them. You need to look them in the eye. You need to get a feel for their, personality. And I know for us,
get a reference or two.
Like definitely get references. Like 100% get references. And the first girl we got, her name was Alyssa. She ended up being a good babysitter. We had my favorite one we had during that time. Her name was Bernadette, and she went by the nickname Bdette. And she was actually pretty young. Like when you have really young kids, and I'm not talking like infants per se, but like, they're like maybe 3 to, I don't know, like elementary school age. You can get like a 14-year-old. I mean, personally, I feel like you can get like a 14-year-old, and you can trust them as long as they've had like the babysitting class. Like I know Bdette, she had been, she went through like the CPR class, and there's a babysitting course to go through, because when they're that young, it's hard to know. So they can get a certification, and she had that. I actually got to meet her family. That really made me feel good. And her mother actually kind of ministered to me over those years. But it was she was a great sitter. Then we had Kayla, who we met at church. She was a bit older, much more experienced. She ended up being our first overnight sitter.
Yeah, we built a relationship with her, and we ended up, we were able to trust her overnight, and she would do a great job because
excellent.
We built that relationship. But we've even had to like more quickly sometimes find overnight sitters. Like when we moved to Texas.
Yes.
And all of a sudden had no family, no network, and we were having to travel for work
Whole
like almost immediately.
And we also didn't have automatically a church. We were working, for XO.
Yeah.
So we were looking for a home church, weren't established. When you're a pastor, you have a lot of built-in people that are going to get to know you fast. And you weren't a pastor, like officially.
Right, so we didn't have the church relationships either.
We didn't have the church relationships. So I relied on care.com, which was, is awesome.
You got great leads there.
sittercity.com. Those are the two websites I went to. Let me say this. They do background checks, but you need to do more of your due diligence and meet with them. Let me tell you guys, I met with like 6 different babysitters ranging in age. And I bring up age because once you reach the teenage years, it gets real weird if they're constantly requesting, like, they're not driving quite yet.
Like really pretty 20-year-old
and you're like, this is weirding me out. So like, I remember at that time, I was like, they need to be like 23 up. And so I interviewed all these different people. And what I did, because as we had these, kept on having boy after boy, and then, getting in different seasons of childhood that could be a little rowdier than others, I was just gut level honest, like, tell me your experience with babysitting boys. Do you have brothers? What kind of home life?
Yeah, because the dynamic, right? Because we found that somebody that, if they grew up with like one quiet sister,
they're going to hate it. And I would say that. I'm like, you're going to hate it.
They come into our full contact wrestling.
Loud home.
Yeah, with all these boys.
Yeah.
They didn't feel the fit, right? And so, then our boys could sense that. They could be like, I don't think that one liked us.
Well, and with you saying that, what we would do, I would interview them. If it was an automatic no, I wouldn't call them back, obviously. But, I don't say that. I would. I don't want to be that person who doesn't call back. I would text them back.
Ghost people.
I would text them back
You just
and
let
say,
them know, like, hey, we're going to.
thank you for the interview. We found someone else or whatever.
Yeah.
I would text them back, but I wouldn't, call them back. But the people that I felt good about, like I found like 3 ladies that I was like, I think these are pretty good. And they could potentially all be on our babysitter list because you don't want to just have one. You need to have for us, 7 deep. Like we need to have 7 that we can call happy primaries. And we've gone through the whole list before. We've gone through the whole list.
In a pinch. You gotta develop a roster here.
You do, a roster.
It's not one babysitter. Like you gotta develop a team, basically.
You get your team. And we did. And so we had these 3 ladies once we moved to Texas. And I remember we were like, okay, we're gonna test them out. We're gonna go on a short date night and 2 hours and just see how it goes. And I remember one by one, it was like, there was one who had been a kindergarten teacher, super nice lady. And you would think, perfect fit.
Yeah.
And, keeping your kindergarten class in line when you're the teacher is different than coming into a home of rowdy boys, right?
Yeah.
And nothing bad happened or anything. They were just themselves. Nothing disrespectful. But we came back from that date and literally it was like a movie. She looked so disheveled and sweaty. And I even was like, what happened? And she was like, they were fine. And and I was just like, after she left, I thanked her, I paid her. And I go to the boys and see, I think at the time Cooper was, 13, I think, so old enough to really understand. And I said, Cooper, what happened? He goes, nothing, Mom. We just were ourselves. We were playing our games we do where we run around and stuff. And we didn't do anything bad. And I was like, well, what'd you think about the babysitter? And he's like, oh, she'll hate it here. She'll hate it here. And then we had...
in those short date nights, it's like go out for a couple hours. It'll let you know. It's like speed dating. It's like this is a fit or this is not.
Exactly. Well, we eventually landed on a girl that I liked. First of all, she had a lot of experience, but she also had a bunch of brothers. And so she put them in line, but also had fun. And I was, and it's nothing personal, but she ended up being a great babysitter. She not only babysat for date nights, she did overnights, and we're so grateful for her.
Yeah. She was great. So it's kind of like quick recap. You're looking for places. If you're at part of a church, which you should be, go to a church anyway, just for lots of reasons. But talk to the nursery and childcare workers and the kids ministry volunteers because they've been vetted by your church already. So that's one layer of security already happening. And they already, they like working with kids because they're there. So start there. Look at local services like the YMCA. We're members of the YMCA. They're childcare workers. We ended up using some of those as babysitters. And also they had built-in childcare that we would go to the gym and use that childcare and just kind of have a little coffee date before we worked out.
2 hours. They give you 2 hours.
Yeah.
And Parents Night Out.
So Parents Night Out. Yeah. Look for resources like that. Ashley mentioned those sites, care.com and sittercity.com.
Yeah.
So there are resources out there. The Nextdoor app, looking for girls in your neighborhood and build relationships with people, interview, do your due diligence, and find some folks who you can lean on. And this is a necessity, guys, that if you're married, you need this. And your kids need to see you and your spouse going out and prioritizing your marriage. We talk a lot about this on our Naked Marriage podcast. But for you to feel good about that, you've got to be able to find some sitters that you can trust.
Exactly. And I want to say the woman, because she's been such a blessing to us that we haven't even mentioned yet, is our main girl, Kara.
Kara,
we've had for years.
Is amazing. Kara, if you're listening, you're the best. Our kids love you. Every time you come,
she's amazing.
You make cookies with them.
She is like a chef. She teaches them how to cook.
And has really walked through a lot of big life moments with them.
She has.
As an extension of the family. And that's been really a gift. It's been a gift to our boys to learn from her as like a
big sister.
A big sister, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's been a gift.
Well, that's what I was going to say because you were like, we need this for our marriage, but also don't underestimate what a babysitter can do for your children as far as someone they can look up to. So don't put someone in your home that has questionable morals that you're not sure what they're going to be saying to your kids. And like Kara, really all of our sitters, I felt so good about them. I feel like they are respectable people, moral people. Kara prays with our kids. She prays with our
she's a
kids.
gift.
And I just love that. And we have Annabelle too, who we've known her whole, childhood. She's awesome. She'll take him to church. She'll do fun. Each sitter we have, it's like they have their thing they do with the kids. Kara's really big into fitness, her and her husband, Matt, really big into fitness. So I love this. She's like, well, if you're going to play video games, we're going to go swim in the pool, or we're going to go run around the block. We're going to go walk the dog.
She keeps them active.
We're going to go up the stairs.
She keeps them active.
And she'll even do like little fitness challenges with them. And like Annabelle is really artistic. And so she'll do drawings with it, like literally could be an artist, like for her full-time job.
And loves, and Chatham
does
loves
gaming. She can play games with them.
Annabelle. And Annabelle, you've been a gift too, if you're listening.
Yes,
Gosh,
I mean, we've been so blessed.
But it's taken effort and intentionality.
It took work. Yeah.
And you guys can do it too.
Yeah. Let me say one more thing. I know you're wanting to go to the fascinating fact and dad joke. The question we get all the time is, well, what do we pay these people? Okay. And I know it's going to vary from place to place.
It's going to vary by a lot of different factors. And so you need to talk to the sitter. It's going to, and even as we say this, you're listening to this a few years from now, like between inflation, different markets are different. Different parts of the country are completely different. The age and experience of the person you're having. I mean, there's how many kids, a lot of different factors. So there's not a formula that I feel comfortable giving. But
no, there's not a formula, but I want to say this. Don't be cheap. If you want that person to come back,
faux show.
Think about this. They are watching the most important people in your life. The most important people in your life. So don't be cheap. And I want to tell you, I would rather have less date nights and a quality sitter that I know is going to come back than have a bunch of date nights with a questionable sitter that never wants to come back, and I feel kind of uneasy about leaving the kids with them. I think it's really important to have quality people that you can depend on. And I'll tell you, like, we round up. Like we
always round up. If you have an hourly rate and we
give them a fair wage, we round up. We pay. Like Kara drives in from Savannah to Augusta, Georgia now because she's since moved since we first hired her.
Money.
We do gas money. We give spending money if they're doing overnights. Like we give overly in the spending money. Like please, we want to make it easy for you as far as for food, activities. You can be as active or non-active with the kids as you want to be because sometimes they just want to veg and that's fine. Our kids love to veg with the best of them, but it's like make it easy for them in the sense of wanting to be there, like you want them to come back, but also be very clear with your standards. Like if you want the dishwasher loaded, you can say, I personally tell the sitter to have the kids, help you to load the dishwasher or do it themselves if it's their chore. Be specific so that they know what's expected and so that you also, you have a gauge. So anyway, I think those things hopefully will be helpful to you.
That is gold right there, my love. Well, we end every episode with a dad joke and a fascinating fact.
That's right. You want me to start this week?
Yeah. What's your fascinating fact?
Okay, fascinating fact is from SmithsonianMag.com, and this is entitled, Mommy Brain is Real and Very Complex. It says roughly 50 to 80% of moms report what sometimes is called mommy brain, the brain fog and mental bloopers associated with pregnancy and new motherhood. Individual experiments offer conflicting evidence, but a 2018 meta-analysis of 20 studies found that memory problems and poorer executive functioning do seem to be common themes starting in the first trimester and worsening through the third. In a first-of-its-kind, groundbreaking analysis of pre- and post-pregnancy brain scans published in 2016, researchers found mothers lose gray matter during pregnancy, and these losses endure for at least 2 years. Like, we literally lose.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and I've experienced this. It says, but the volume loss may come with some benefits, too. The brain zones used for processing and responding to social cues might get more efficient in pregnancy, as the women who suffered the biggest gray matter losses scored higher on a standard assessment of a mother's attachment to her child.
How about it?
So you're increasing attachment, like you might have the fog, but you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're attaching, you're bonding, and that's what we're supposed to do.
That is fascinating.
I know, it's so cool. I love it.
I tell you what, well, for the dad joke, again, this is another one from our producer, Taiwan. He is a treasure trove of dad jokes. Did you know that I used to be addicted to soap?
I didn't.
Don't worry, I'm clean now.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
There it is. That's gold. So on that note, guys, stay clean. And we love and appreciate you. You can always find us on Instagram at Dave and Ashley Willis. And we appreciate your messages, your questions, your dad jokes and fascinating facts and topic suggestions and all that.
Thank you for your reviews.
Yeah, thank you for reviewing. this podcast. It's still a new podcast, so we're still getting the word out, and your reviews help people discover it. So thank you guys so much. God bless. We'll see you next time.
Bye.